Hello and welcome back to the Agency Profit Lab podcast. My name is Eli Clark. I am your host. I am the CEO and founder of OneBridge Accounting. We are an accounting firm specifically for marketing firms. So very excited. In this podcast episode today, we're going to be talking about SOPs, standard operating procedures. We're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about why you should have them in your agency, why they're important, talk about a couple of different standard operating procedures that you can implement right away, right now. We're going to talk about how SOPs, standard operating procedures, help you go from owning an agency that runs you to an agency that works for you. So let's jump right in. Okay, so let's talk first about what are standard operating procedures. Not everybody out there might know what that is. I talk a lot with marketing firms, marketing agencies that love standard operating procedures. It's part of their bread and butter. It's part of what they do. They standardize everything. They operate everything in a checklist fashion, and it works really well for them. And there's a lot of marketing agencies that I work with where they don't standardize anything, and it's just from the seat of their pants. They're doing things. They're whatever's going on. They just full creative freedom, right? And today I'm going to talk a little bit about why you should at least standardize some of your systems, and if you're standardizing maybe a little too much, why you should try and maybe include a little bit more creativity in what you're doing, a little bit more flexibility in your systems. So let's first talk about what are standard operating procedures. Really simple definition. They're documented instructions for routine tasks. So things that you're going to do on a regular basis, onboarding clients, building a website, writing copy, setting up social media ads in Meta's platform, right? Think of routine tasks, billing, invoicing, accounting is perfect for standard operating procedures. You're thinking about routine tasks that are going on a regular basis, and you're going to document those tasks so that they can be followed on a regular basis. Now, there's two different kind of marketing firms that I see in the general industry as a whole. You've got really creative marketing firms, and you've got kind of really more technical marketing firms. And standard operating procedures are great for both of these types of agencies, whether you're providing very creative, ad hoc, one-off projects that are super creative and maybe are really hard to systemize, really hard to have a process for. And you've got technical marketing agencies where maybe everything they do is systems right now. And that's okay. So standard operating procedures are going to be great on both sides of that, where it's not going to stunt your creativity, and it's also, on the other side, going to enable you to still have good quality of work in the work that you're doing, right, on the technical side of the marketing things. So standard operating procedures, they help you create repeatable results, and they help you save time. I mean, who doesn't want to save more time, right? You don't need to remember how you did something every time to do it again. And that's the great thing about standard operating procedures. So standard operating procedures, fantastic. Would recommend them at multiple levels of your agency, things that you're doing, and whatever you're doing. So that's what talked about. What are standard operating procedures? Now let's talk a little bit about how standard operating procedures directly impact your profit margins. Well, there's a couple of reasons I just listed here, and I'll just share them with you real quick. First off, you're going to reduce wasted time. Instead of having to reinvent the wheel, hey, how did we do that thing, 2 weeks ago? Do you remember how we send that invoice in the accounting system? Or, hey, do you remember how we set up this technical system or this technical process? Or do you remember how we do this or that or whatever that is, right? It's going to help you reduce time. Reduce wasted time, which is going to lower your labor costs. So that's great. It's going to improve your onboarding speed, both for clients and for team. If you've got an onboarding process, you've got that standardized. It's easier to delegate. You can delegate those tasks to different team members, and that gives you, as the founder, you as the CEO, more time to focus on higher value activities, or go on vacation, or spend more time with your family, or whatever you want to do with that extra time. It allows you to delegate when you have standard operating procedures. Another great benefit, fewer mistakes. When you know that this is a system that we need to follow, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, if there is a mistake that's made, it's either one, somebody didn't follow that process to the letter, they didn't follow it exactly, or the process is broken, right? And we can look at that in all different areas of the business, where if we want to get better at this particular process or this particular thing, we want to be better at sales and growing the agency, or we want to be better at fulfillment or client onboarding, let's put a system together, a checklist of A, B, C, D, follow these things, and it'll help reduce the number of mistakes that are made if we follow that process. Now, again, if the process isn't working, then there's something either wrong with the process or people aren't following the process exactly. But either way, standard operating procedures are the solution to creating fewer mistakes, less rework, and less scope creep as well. Also going to help with hiring lower cost, but still competent team members. Maybe you're thinking about offloading some work offshore, right? Maybe in the Philippines or Vietnam or whatever that is. Maybe you're looking near shore like Guatemala or Mexico, places like that. With standard operating procedures, you can start delegating a lot more of those tasks to those types of team members that are still competent, still very intelligent team members, but you can have a lot more trust and a lot more confidence knowing that they're following a system that is a good system that you've set up, right? So some areas of your agency that need standard operating procedures just make sense for you no matter what, whether you're a really creative agency or a really technical agency. Here's some areas where standard operating procedures make a ton of sense. Client onboarding and offboarding. Maybe you're bringing on a new client. How do we do that? What systems do we need them set up in? What access do we need? Do we need access to their Meta account? Do we need access to the back end of their website, right? What do you need? How do you systematize? How do you set up and standardize client onboarding? Same thing with onboarding is offboarding. Maybe you've got a client that no longer is working with you, or maybe you've decided that you don't want to work with that client anymore. How do we successfully offboard that client, and how do we do it in a way that doesn't burn any bridges and is a process that we can follow on a regular basis? Proposal creation and pricing approval. When you're sending proposals to new clients or clients that you have already, you're doing new projects for them. How do you create those proposals, and how do you approve that pricing internally before it gets sent off to that client? Is that all done by you, the business of one, the CEO, right? Or is there a system that can be followed where you can outsource or offload parts of that process to a different team member, saving you a ton of time? Ad campaign setup, quality assurance, reporting, some other great areas where you can set up standard operating procedures. Content creation workflow. You're creating a podcast like this one. Maybe you are creating short form videos for yourself or for other clients. What is the standard operating procedure for where things need to get uploaded? Are we saving them to Google Drive? Are we saving them to Box? Are we saving them to Dropbox, right? Whatever that is, what is that process? And is it written down somewhere that somebody could sit down and they can follow it? Invoicing and billing procedures. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, kind of the accounting side of things. Internal communication. How do we communicate both to internal team members, but also to clients? Do we talk to clients? Do they text us on our personal phone number? Do we talk to them via a Slack channel, email? How often do we meet with clients? What is the standard operating procedure for that type of thing? And that's really important for some areas, there's some areas there that you can set up standard operating procedures. So what does an effective SOP look like? If you want to create your own standard operating procedures for your agency, how do you do that? What do they look like? Really, you want to keep it short. Keep it short, simple, and visual. Bullet points are great. Checklists are great. If you've got graphs are fantastic, maybe for some more technical things, or if then. So if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do that. Graphs are great for that type of thing. Loom videos, take some time, record a 3-minute Loom video and walk through how something is done. Walk through a system or walk through a process. With any sort of process, you want to make sure that you have a purpose for it. So it's outlined and people understand, okay, this is the purpose of this operating procedure. Here's the owner, who's the person in charge of that process. Here's the frequency, step-by-step instructions, and any sort of tools or resources that are going to be needed or pulled in for that SOP. An important thing to know as well, as you are creating kind of this living document for your agency, is that it's just that. It's a living document. It's important to give regular updates, to get feedback from team members about what's working and what's not working, and don't be afraid to change the system, to change kind of what you've got going on, because that's okay. It's a living document. Your agency is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly making improvements, and it's okay to do that at different areas of your business within standard operating procedures. So great, we've talked about what standard operating procedures are. We've talked about how they directly impact your business, your profit margins. We talked about a couple areas of your agency that really could use standard operating procedures, where you can systemize things, where you can standardize things. And we've talked about a couple ideas of effective standard operating procedures that you can implement within your agency. So I've got a document that I'm going to put in. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. If you're listening elsewhere, it's going to be in the show notes. I've got a document currently titled Financial SOP Starter Pack. It's a free document. Go ahead and grab it, snag it down right now in the description. Head down there, grab it. And what this is my team and I have outlined a number of standard operating procedures that you can implement in your agency right away, right now. We've created them for you that are related to your accounting and finance. I'm not an expert when it comes to technical things, or when it comes to building websites, or when it comes to those other aspects of running a marketing agency, but I'm very familiar with the financial side and the accounting side. So that's where we put this together to help you get a little bit of our expertise and a little bit of our systems and our processes that we use for some of our clients. So I'm going to go through some of these and walk you through this document. So if you've got it open, if you're able to, you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click show notes, pause the video, show notes, go find that document. Again, it's called the Financial SOP Starter Pack. It's free. It's just a Google Doc. Go grab it. Open that up. When you first see it, you'll see a little snazzy cover page there. Go and scroll down, a little intro, just kind of walks you through what you can expect in the document. There's a table of contents. We will be continually updating this document as we get more standard operating procedures. Currently, there's 15 in here, but I'm sure we'll add more as the document evolves. Again, it's a living document that changes over time. Keep scrolling, and you'll see that we have kind of focused this or grouped these standard operating procedures into different groups. You've got revenue management, expense control, cost control, reporting and decision-making, cash flow and forecasting, compliance and record keeping. And we've set up a lot of different, again, 15 standard operating procedures right now, and we'll add more to that you can use to systematize and standardize some parts of the financial and accounting aspects of your business. So let me just go through a couple of these, make a couple of notes and some suggestions. So the very first one that you'll see in revenue management is client invoicing SOP. Now, this is important if you are doing one-off projects. If you're doing reoccurring projects like SEO, where you're billing a specific amount every single month, we've got a different SOP for that. But let's say you've just finished building up a website, or you just finished a creative project, or whatever that is. This SOP is going to walk you through how to send that invoice to that client, right? So step one, create the invoice in your accounting system, whatever that is. I would recommend you use an accounting system. You don't have to, really. You could just send them a piece of paper in the mail and ask them to send you a check back. But really, in this day and age, you really should be using an accounting system. So for the sake of argument and discussion, we'll say that's QuickBooks Online. So you're going to create that invoice in QuickBooks. We've got some videos on the channel about how to do that. You can also Google that, ChatGPT it, look for a way. So create the invoice in the accounting system. Then you're going to verify the invoice details. So you're going to look at the invoice amount. How much are you charging that client? Is it the right client that we're invoicing? Is it the right services? Is it web design? Is it a creative project like maybe a video, right? Or some videography work, things like that, editing, right? That kind of thing. Services, make sure that's correct. The due date is correct. And the payment terms, when is payment due? Is it due right away? Is it due in 30 days, net 30, net 15? When is that due? That's the second step. Third step, you send the invoice via accounting system within 24 hours of project completion. Now, this is really important. The sooner you send an invoice to a client, the sooner you're going to get paid. Now, that might sound really obvious, but there's a lot of agencies that I work with where we'll look at work that they've been doing, work that's already done, and they haven't sent invoices for work that was done a week ago or 2 weeks ago or even months ago, right? So very important that you have a system where once a project is done, within 24 hours or ideally within a few minutes, you're going to send that invoice to that client, right? Once things have been completed. Another thing you can do, and this is where accounting software is fantastic if you're using QuickBooks Online or Bill.com or anything like that, is you can automate follow-ups. I recommend at least doing 3 follow-up emails or text messages. You can do both depending on what software you're using. But a week later, do a friendly reminder letting them know that the invoice is due. Day 15, so you get a little bit more serious and you say, hey, this is a little overdue. I need you to pay your invoice. And then day 30 is where you might apply a late fee, or you might escalate that and start calling them and being a little bit more hands-on with receiving payment. And then finally, step 5, track all of these invoices either in your billing software, whether that's Bill.com or QuickBooks Online, or if you need to, you can do it in a spreadsheet. Just have a couple of rows with each of the different invoices that you're tracking, and then columns to track, the name of the client, when it's due, the amount that it's due, when you sent the invoice, that kind of thing. So that's the client invoicing standard operating procedure. Take a look at that. Would recommend that. I'm going to, if you scroll down, if you're looking at the document, a couple other great ones that I'm going to share with you. Let's talk about subcontractor and freelancer payments. Most marketing agencies are going to be using some form of freelancer, a subcontractor, at least a little bit. Now, if you are using a US-based freelancer, then you have to collect what's called a W-9. And a W-9 is what you use to then file what's called a 1099 at the beginning of the year. And those have to be filed by January 31st every single year. So the worst thing, and this happens all the time, is where January 31st rolls around, you're getting ready for taxes, you're doing your documents, your end of year paperwork and stuff, and you realize you've got 5 or 10 or 20 or more contractors that you've worked with throughout the year, and you don't have their social security number, you don't have their official name, you don't have any of that kind of information, and you're running around and you're chasing them. That way you can meet the January 31st deadline. So what I recommend is you set up a standard operating procedure for when you bring on a new contractor or on an annual basis, because sometimes people's information changes, like where they live and what state they're based in, that kind of thing, is to collect new W-9s on an annual basis. And if you use a software like QuickBooks, it'll help you keep track of all of that. So first step, when you're working with subcontractors or freelancers that are US-based, is you need to collect a W-9 before you pay them. Make that part of a requirement and just say, hey, I can't pay you until I get a W-9 back, right? And again, if you use QuickBooks, they can help you automate this system. If you're using an international contractor, you need to collect what's called a W-8 BEN. And a W-8 is basically a W-9, but for international contractors. Now, you don't need to file anything when you collect a W-8, but it does help you in the case of an audit or in situations where people the government is asking, hey, I see you sent this money overseas to a contractor. Where's your evidence that this actually is a contractor? It's not just being sent to an offshore account and you're using that to fraudulently hustle money away, right? So that's a W-8. So W-8, W-9, you're collecting that paperwork. That's the first step. Then you're going to verify the invoice details. So that's hours that this freelancer worked, if they're charging you hourly, the rate, and then the deliverables, making sure that all of that got done. If it's a project rate, then you're just going to verify that, okay, $750 or $1,500, whatever that amount is, that is correct. Scheduled payment, usually I recommend bi-monthly, so on the 15th and the 30th of each month, you're paying your subcontractors. That's step 3, you're scheduling your payment. Step 4, you're going to log all those payments, and you're going to flag for 1099 tracking. Again, that 1099 is the thing that you send out on January 31st. So within your accounting software, you can send out payments and then you can say, hey, this payment needs to be submitted as part of a 1099. So it allows you to kind of track all of that. And that's step 4 of this subcontractor freelancer payment process. And then on a quarterly basis, this is step 5, I like to recommend reviewing what you've paid your contractors, your quarterly totals, just to make sure you're within your budget and different restrictions that you have for those contractors. Okay, let's talk about one more. Let's talk about everybody's favorite. Let's talk about monthly bookkeeping. So let's say you're doing a monthly booking standard operating procedure. Bookkeeping is the foundation of good financial management. You need to have some sort of bookkeeping standard operating procedure, some sort of standardized, whether you're hiring a bookkeeper overseas to do that, whether you're doing it yourself, you're having one of your team members do it, or you bring on a firm like OneBridge to take care of your bookkeeping for you. You do need to standardize your bookkeeping. Highly recommend this. So step 1, you're going to download all your transactions from your bank and your credit card, whether that's your PayPal, you can use your Venmo, all those different accounts that you're using to track money. You're going to download all those transactions, and then you're going to categorize those transactions into the different categories, expenses and income. Then you're going to reconcile those transactions. So you're going to look at the bank statements that you have. You're going to make sure that you're not missing any transactions. You're going to do that side by side. So you've categorized, you've reconciled. You're going to check for any sort of missing receipts or any duplicate transactions that you have. You're going to save your financial reports, your profit and loss, your income statement, your balance sheet, and a cash flow statement, if that's helpful for you. And then finally, you're going to get all of this done and send it out to the owner, or if that's you, the founder, you're going to review those statements by the 10th of the following month. And that just gives you a good deadline to know that, okay, by the 10th of the following month, I'm going to review the previous month's statements. So, well, folks, that is standard operating procedures. Again, go check out the document. It's in the notes below. It's in the description. It's in the show notes. Open up that document. Again, it's free to download. There's no email lock or anything like that. Just go and click on that document, and you'll be able to see 15 and plus, as that continues to grow, financial and accounting operating procedures that you can follow within your agency. So here's my recommendation as we're kind of wrapping up the episode for today, is as you've been thinking about and listening to what's going on in your as you've been listening to this episode and you've been thinking about what's going on in your agency, what's working and what's not working, I would challenge you to think about how you can standardize different systems within your agency, especially areas that are repeatable and are tasks that are going on a regular basis, right? And then how can you offload those tasks to somebody else, whether that's an internal team member or an outsourced or delegated team member that's not part of the internal team, whatever that is. And as you do that, you're going to free up your time, you're going to save a lot of money, you're going to save your own time, and it's going to create a lot of wiggle room for you to focus on other more important things that are going on in your agency. So, well, that's it, what I have for you folks. Thanks for listening again to the Agency Profit Lab podcast. Really excited that you tuned in today, and we'll see you in the next episode.